Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we're going to look at 1792 Bottled and Bond. This is a store pick, single barrel for Boyd's Wine and Spirits in, single barrel select for Boyd's Wine and Spirits in Rapid City, South Dakota. This is barrel number, I gotta get the reflection just right here, 6567. And back in March, today is June 21st, the solstice, so happy solstice to everybody. This is my second video of the day. Back in March, family vacation over in Rapid City, stopped in at Boyd's. They had several different things that were pretty reasonably priced, so I picked them up. I picked up this Bottled and Bond for $37.99, which I think is a really good price, especially for a Bottled and Bond, 1792. If you like the notes that I say, so like cherry brown sugar, and actually oak a fair bit, and ethanol forward presentation, if I remember correct. I'm doing this all off of memory, so I might be wrong. We'll see when we get into the bottle. But if you like those types of things, 1792 is a really decent whiskey to check out. It gets raving reviews from all sorts of whiskey channels on YouTube and whatever else. I have to say, it's not my wheelhouse of flavor. It is good for what it is. It's not my preference. I have the 1792. I also have. I got a whole bottle or a whole box of whiskey back here. I also have a full proof, which is a single barrel for Town and Country supermarkets. This was down in Cheyenne. So this was a single barrel select full proof. And I also have another single barrel 1792. This is just a regular single barrel. I have those to review as well. I think I've had, I don't know, I probably got 3, 4. If you look on the channel, probably got 3 or 4 1792s in my listings there. I think it was the original small batch is like the very first 1792 that I did. I want to say that might have been the first 10 or 15 videos that I did. With horrible audio and horrible everything else. Hopefully things have gotten slightly better. I don't have the camera set to a set focus right now, so doing this kind of thing probably is screwing with the camera a little bit, but that's okay. Let's see, what else do we want to say about that? Probably nothing else. So $37.99, not a bad price. It is sitting at 100 proof, 50% ABV, Bottled and Bond, I suppose that makes sense. On the nose, here we go. So there you go. Nose is all cherry and brown sugar and just a light floral impact, but not very much. Mostly cherry and brown sugar. It's actually lighter than I remember it being. The ethanol, for some reason, for me personally, the ethanol in all 1792 products kind of comes forward quite a bit in the nose. In fact, if I remember correctly, now this has been 2 years ago, but the very first review, that 1792 small batch, I'm pretty sure I said it had a very acetone nose to it. I will say I can still pick out some of that, but now I would describe it more as it's like the high ethanol floral brown sugar, and that's probably what I called acetone back in the day, because it has that sharp bite that just kind of hits your nostrils and your nasal cavity. And I didn't really I had a pretty good palate back in the day, but I wouldn't say that my nose was as good as it is now as far as picking out and deciphering different characteristics. Now, just came off the heels of the Old Forester 1910 kind of review and comparison. I have to say, when it comes to bourbon, I'm starting to lean away from bourbon as a category, just because it's very difficult to find a bourbon that is doing anything other than bourbon, right? Like, it's a pretty narrowly defined category as far as how things can be made and what process has to happen to it, and aging requirements and all that stuff. So there's not a very wide breadth of directions to take things. And so because of that, and it's not a knock on bourbon, like bourbon is bourbon, right? But everything's very similar in profile. And there's only a couple of different notes that kind of get shared around in different varieties and stuff. And unless it's a finished bourbon, in which case it no longer can be called bourbon, the technical category is bourbon finished in whatever cask. That is the technical definition of it. It can't be called just bourbon anymore, unless you start doing stuff like that. It's all very similar. And again, not a knock on that. Now that time I got a little bit of peanut, more peanut shell than peanut, and that's fine. It's just it kind of, I don't know. I must have 70 bourbons back here or more. It's the vast majority of my whiskey collection, and they're, if you kind of pick out a couple of the different bourbons from the different flavor categories, you've covered it all. So with that, there's a couple exceptions. Like I'm still trying to hunt down the Remus repeal, especially batch 4 or 5. I mean, that should be pretty amazing. And then I don't know. I'm trying to think. Oh, Stag Junior had that the other day, or a couple months ago at the tasting library here in town. And if you can get your hands on that bottle, that's worth every penny, in my opinion. But yeah. Anyways, like I said, I'm starting to get overwhelmed with bourbon, and I got tons and tons of bourbon. I got, I don't know, maybe another 12, 15 bottles behind the counter here that still need to be reviewed. But the nose isn't changing a lot over time. But it's brown sugar. I'd say that cherry subdued and getting a lot more peanut shell out of it more than anything. Going on a sip. Very ethanol heavy. Very cherry heavy. Peanut or grain in the middle. A little bit of brown sugar in there. And then a very tannic finish. Slight bittering on a tannic wood note. Very oaky wood note in there. That's much different than I remember it being. I'd say that is better than I remember it being. It is more complex than I recall. I'd say there was probably like 5 or 6 notes altogether that flowed really nicely on that first sip. That peanut really came out in there. Brown sugar and sweetness. A very nice tannic. Instead of being super bitter oak tannic, it was just a nice light, like starting to edge into those tannins, letting you know that oakiness is there. Yeah, that's pretty good. Better than I remember it being. So hats off to that. And again, single barrel selected, and I don't know if the owner of Boyd's had their hands in this or if they just said, hey, bottle, because you get one of two things, right? Either somebody goes to a distillery and says, hey, I want to pick a barrel and label it as a special barrel specifically for our company, and they hand select it, right? And typically when that happens, the distillers will go, here's 5 different barrels that we selected, you can choose from one of these, right? So there's either that, or the company will go to, the retailer will go to a distillery and go, hey, we want to do a single barrel, just pick one out for us and bottle it, and then they'll get something that is specific to that store. I would say store picks tend to be better, better expressions of whatever whiskey it is. So if you get the option to have, like, say, a bottled and bond and then a bottled and bond store pick, go with the store pick. They're typically not very much more expensive, like a couple dollars more. In this instance, I would say the store pick was actually cheaper. I think that might have been on sale when I bought it. Not a ton of people, I would say, not a ton of people. The average whiskey drinker is not aware of the store picks and stuff like that. So if you can get your hands on it and it's a reasonable price, definitely go with the store picks. And one of the other ones that I just picked up was a store pick. I have a store pick for Kilchoman Scotch. I don't know. I got a handful of store picks back here, which we'll go through here as we start making all the rest of these videos. But nose didn't change, actually went more flat, just a single note cherry. On the taste, taste sweetened up a lot. Vanilla, then into a brown sugar. The fruit is like a dark fruit, plum, cherry, um, but almost not recognizable as a fruit. It's like right on the cusp of fruit and sugar. And it's a very short note on that second sip. It immediately went into a slightly more bitter, tannic oak with a little black pepper. And then that ethanol came back and punched a little bit at the end of that. But it was a lot sweeter on that second sip for a lot longer. It was very nice, easy transition from flavor to flavor, very rounded profile. I will say the mouthfeel is a little bit dry. Kind of dries out your mouth, your tongue a little bit, like a dry wine. It's not a very creamy or rounded, and it's not very oily. The only thing that seems to be clinging to my tongue is the ethanol, and which kind of presents as a black pepper finish. That's kind of sitting there mixed with a little bit of oak tannin. And that's the persisting flavor of the finish. There is a slight sweetness that's in there, a little bit of brown sugar that kind of hangs on as well, but it's tucked behind the bitterness and the ethanol and everything. But well done. I have to say, if you can find yourself a 1792 bottled in bond, a store pick, you're probably going to find something that's pretty nice. Like I said, this is a single barrel. Excellent. $37.99 in Rapid City at Boyd's Wine and Spirits. I picked up a couple bottles of things there. Been happy with them. So if you're in Rapid City over the course of the summer, check them out. It's definitely worth poking your head in there and seeing what they have on sale. They're kind of on the south end of town. Let's see. Let me know what you think of the 1792 bottled in bond, what your experience is. Drop that down in the comments below. Also, as always, please go ahead and put the price, what you can find a bottle of bottled in bond 1792 for in your area, whether that's the store pick or just the regular bottled in bond. I'd be curious. Throw in the comments down below. As always, I'm trying to get people to do that so that way can get a little library of prices for different areas and different regions. So if you're out traveling, make sure to keep notes, keep receipts. I got a whole pile of receipts. I enter everything into a spreadsheet because I'm a dork like that. But as always, thanks for watching. I do greatly appreciate it. This is bottle number 2. We'll do Baker's next, I think, and then we'll go into that Old Grandad 114. And maybe we'll finish up with that Talisker, and that ought to be enough bottles for the day. But check out Life and Whiskey if you haven't already on BitChute and Minds, soon to be Rumble. Of course, I've been saying that for 6 months. And if you're watching it on YouTube, you probably won't see this video till at least fall of 2023. So if you want to be up on this and actually watch this video in reasonable time, I'll be putting this up on BitChute probably, let's see, it's June 21st. This video will probably drop in mid-July or maybe towards the end of July on BitChute. So if you're watching on YouTube, please consider checking out Life and Whiskey on BitChute, Minds, or Rumble, as I'm trying to kind of lean away from YouTube. I already have, I got very small channels on everything, so it doesn't really matter. So to the 80 people on BitChute or the 140 people on YouTube, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, ship this off to friends and family who you think might find it interesting. As always, thanks for watching. You guys have yourselves a great day, and we will catch you in the next video.